This is the CL330, a bicolor chip-on-board continuous video light from COLBOR, and it has a couple of unique features up its sleeve, as well as a few strange oddities. I think you go through different stages as a filmmaker. I know I did. When you first start out, you're obsessed with cameras. You spend all your time looking into specs and resolutions. You compare brands and models continuously in the hope of finding the perfect camera that will make your images look like the ones you see on the movie screens. Slowly, you start to realize that the lenses play just as much of a part in the image quality as the cameras do. You want fast, expensive prime lenses that you'll shoot wide open to get that creamy, shallow depth of field that's the real hallmark of cinematic images. Ooh, look at that one Roger Deakins got. But after a few years of being obsessed with the declicked vintage lenses and the differences in characteristics between spherical and anamorphic, you'll eventually come to terms with the inevitable but frustrating truth. If you want cinematic images, it's all about lighting. Now, lights are nowhere near as cool and sexy as camera bodies or lenses are. They just aren't. But that wasn't going to deter me. I was just going to have to put up with being uncool and unsexy, if only for a short time. So I started reading everything I could about the secret to cinematic lighting. And about 30 seconds later, I knew what that secret was. What I needed was an ARRI orbiter, because that's what all the pros use in it, so that must be the best. Simple, really. Only problem is, well, they'll set you back 5k, which is a bit of a shame because I don't have 5k. In fact, I don't have anywhere near that amount of money to spend on a light. Don't forget to click all those affiliate links down there in the description, people. What I needed was something a little more budget. So when COLBOR offered to send me out their CL330 to test, I thought, let's see if this can do the job. You see, I'd made a video about their CL60R, a small, low wattage video light that is actually great, but it's aimed at YouTubers and content creators. COLBOR are now upping the power and stepping into the territory of the more professional film and video lights, although their marketing does still mention YouTubers. The first thing I noticed was the industrial design stylings. I'd probably say it isn't quite as nice as the design of the CL60R. I really like the way that looked, especially the heat sinks around the LED. What I do like is that this body is way more practical. Having the handle on the bottom seems strange at first. Most of the other lights I've used have the handle on the top, but it makes sense because the times you're most likely going to need the handle is when the light's up high. So having it on the bottom is actually less of a stretch. I like the yellow accent colours used on the handle and the switch for the Bowens mount. What's a bit strange, but also kind of cool really, is that they've bothered to make the internal fans the same yellow colour. It reminds me of the brake calipers on a really fancy sports car, but just sort of kind of hidden away. There's also a hidden USB Type-A on the underside, which I assume is for updates. The body is made mostly out of aluminium alloy with some high quality ABS plastic on the back, and it has these NATO chutes on the side that I'll get to in a bit. For power, it has this 3-pin Nutric connector that locks into place, so you're not going to accidentally pull this power lead out. That's a lot more professional than the USB-C used on the CL60R. Operation couldn't be easier, or maybe it could and I'm not creative enough to imagine it, but either way it's pretty simple. Left dial goes through the short menu, right dial adjusts the settings you're on. If you click the dial in, like a button, you'll cycle through some presets. I used Joel Famillaro's Phantom LUTs to colour grade all the B-roll in this video. If you like the way it looks, then you can check out the link in the description and use the code CHRIS15 to get a 15% discount at checkout. I wanted to test if this light is powerful enough to use in daylight conditions as a sort of replacement for the sun. I wanted to make it look like late morning sunlight shining in through the window. I need to get the light high and far away from the window to sell the illusion. I used some haze and fog to get depth and create some light beams or god rays, just to add texture, and then partly closed the curtains to create some sort of shape. The shears acted to soften the light a bit, but they also removed the distraction of the garden. I think it worked quite well considering the sun was actually setting in the complete opposite direction to how the light was set up. With a little more time and a bit more equipment, I think I could have made this work even better. But with a cast and crew of one, it's hard work and it's not perfect. But it did enough to convince me you could use the light in this way. I will say, however, this is sort of the limit of what it can be used for power-wise. In darker settings it'll be fine, but I'd like a bit more power when using this light as a daylight, like this. Maybe COLBOR can bring out a 600 watt light. At 100% brightness, this light outputs 65,800 lux at 56k light at a 1 meter distance. Unlike conventional bi-coloured lights, the CL330 can keep this same power output of 330 watts at different colour temperatures. The light has good scores when it comes to colour reproduction. The light also has a number of built-in FX for special lighting conditions. This is kind of standard stuff nowadays, and I'm not sure how often you'll need them, but they are there if you want to use them. Everything comes in this nice grey and yellow carry case that matches with the one supplied with the CL60R. And it also matches with cases supplied by other companies, like this one from Small Rig. This filter case from Nicey matches even closer with the same yellow accent. I do wonder why every company seems to have gone with the same grey colour scheme. It was when I was rummaging around in this bag that I discovered this thing, the Control 1 remote dimming control. Now, I don't think this comes with any of the packages this light comes in. As far as I can tell, this is an optional extra that COLBOR must have slipped into the bag. It's kind of a stylish object in its own right. It has this little sticky foot that you, well, stick to your desk. The top part is a dial that changes settings, and you can click it in and out like a button to change different menus. And it all runs off a watch battery. This can come in useful if you're using the CL330 as part of a permanent studio setup where you don't intend to move your lights around much, but if you're going to use this light as part of a lighting kit that you take out on location with you, then I just don't see you using this remote control much. It would probably be better to have a kind of standard one that looks like a TV remote control. Then again, it only costs about $30, so it's not a huge investment either way, and I have to say it kind of makes a nice desk toy to fidget with when you're supposed to be working. I just can't see a gaffer walking around set with this thing. What the light doesn't have is a DMX connection. That stands for Digital Multiplex and lets you control multiple lights from the same mixing board. If you do want to control multiple lights at the same time and they're all COLBOR lights, then the COLBOR Studio app will let you do this. Speaking of multiple lights, let's talk about these NATO chutes on the side. The idea is that you can slot this external bar into them, and that lets you attach different accessories. COLBOR mentioned the idea of using a V-mount adapter, so you can run the light from battery power. But the chutes on the side reminded me of the chutes on the top and bottom of the CL60R. Those lights can slot together into what COLBOR call the Power Cube system. I wanted to know, could I link these lights together as part of the Power Cube system that the CL60R is capable of? It looks like you should just be able to slot the lights together, but obviously that didn't work. At first I thought it was the little ball bearings fouling on the point of contact between the ABS plastic and the metal, but the adapter rail has the same ball bearing locking mechanism, and that works just fine. So I did the only logical thing, and I applied a load more force. But this time it didn't work. It was only on a full investigation that the scars left on the body gave up the secret. The body of the CL60 was fouling against the hinge of the handle on the back of the CL330. Sometimes you just have to admit defeat, but this wasn't one of those times. An Allen key, a screwdriver and some elbow grease later, and I'd taken the handle off and attached the lights together. And as seen as COLBOR didn't make it easy for me to do this, and I'm probably the first person to configure this light in, well, this configuration, it's only fair that I get to name it. So welcome to what I call Ultimate Power Cube Turbo. In my video about this CL60, I was kind of critical of the whole Power Cube system, but it seems strange to me that you would have the ability to include this light into that ecosystem and then not let it happen because of the placement of the handle. I'm sure there could have been a design solution to this problem. Anyway, COLBOR definitely don't want you to do what I did and take the handle off, because the screws of the handle don't actually connect to the body, but instead connect to some little bolts on the inside of the unit. In my attempt to be a bit of a smart ass, I managed to lose the bolts inside the light, and as of now, they rattle around inside, and the only way for me to get them out is to remove the whole back of the light, if that's even possible. If you are interested in linking your lights together, you'd be much better getting the COLBOR NQ-D1 adapter designed to do just this. Speaking of unique features, the COLBOR CL330 has a feature that pretty much no other bicolor video light on the market has. As far as I'm aware, not even the big boys of Aperture and Nanlite have this feature. So you might have run into a problem when shooting with LED lights in your videos. This problem is especially likely if you're mixing lights from different manufacturers, and it's next to impossible to fix in post. It's called color consistency, color shift, or color stability, and it looks super ugly. This is where different lights render the same color temperature with a green or magenta bias. Imagine you're shooting an interview under some built-in LED fixtures that you want to use as practical lights in the scene, but you also want to use your own video light as a key light, which would be understandable. You might find that when you color balance your image, the LED fixtures have a green cast to them compared to your key light. So you get two slightly different shades of the same light in your scene. And the worst thing is, you can't correct this with the tint slider in DaVinci Resolve, because taking the green out of the built-in lights will increase the magenta in your key light. Unfortunately, all LED lights are affected by this problem to a greater or lesser extent. It's caused by different manufacturers using different materials in their construction, as well as general wear and tear from the light heating up over time. COLBOR's solution to this is to give you the function of changing the DUV value with red-green color compensation. In other words, you can make this light look a bit greener, or you can make it look a bit redder. This lets you match this light with lights that you can't control the color profile of, and then you can use the tint slider to correct the color balance either in post or, if you've got the option, in camera. You get all of this for a price of around $550, which is around the same price as every other 300 watt LED light. So is this light a good alternative for a ARRI orbiter? Of course not. That's a $5 light made by the world's leading film lighting company with hundreds of years of experience. Only an idiot would even think of comparing the two. And to be fair to COLBOR, they never made that claim. But what I would say is that this light is more than reasonable when it comes to the combination of features, build quality, and price. I can see this being a great option for any sort of indie filmmaking project and lower need professional gigs. If you shoot corporate videos or music videos, then this thing will definitely pull its weight. And with the unique red-green shift, you won't have the problem of mixing it in with other lighting kits if that's what's needed.